So I guess you heard a little bit earlier today about something called a nuclear power scandal in South Carolina. Our next speaker and our last speaker is Mr. Chris Carnevale. I'm sorry. And if you folks would just bear with me a second. Chris works with the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy on advocating for increased access to renewable energy in South Carolina and around the Southeast. He's based in Charleston and serves as SACE's South Carolina State Liaison. SACE worked closely with Tea Party groups in Florida to secure a major victory for solar choice and energy freedom in 2016, in spite of intense monopoly opposition. Please welcome Chris.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here with you all today to talk about the VC summer disaster. I'm going to be referring to VC summer a lot, and in shorthand, it's the fiasco in which SCE&G and Santee Cooper poured billions of dollars into a nuclear power plant project and then canceled, creating one of our state's biggest fiascos in state history. So I've been asked to talk about what's really going on with it, who's accountable, and what comes next. So those are some of the things that I'm going to try to hit on in the next 15 minutes. And I've prepared some remarks that go over those topics, but really I can sum up the fiasco in just one sentence. Monopolies set up by the government have been taxing us, killing competition, and taking away our freedom. The VC summer scandal is almost too complicated to understand, but if you peel it back layer by layer by layer, it's a story of regular people like you and me getting fleeced by an awful deal cooked up to corrupt public policy and take our money to use against us. And year after year, the money they've collected from every utility customer's bill has been paid out in shareholder dividends, executive bonuses, and overpriced contracts. Similarly, the solutions can seem terribly complicated, but it all boils down to this. In South Carolina's energy system, are we going to accept and continue the failed path of corrupt monopoly control that brought us to this point, or are we going to free our state's electric customers to enjoy customer choice in a fair power market that everybody can actually understand? So now that I've given you the elevator speech, basically, on what's going on with the situation, let me back up and tell you some of the many details. There are so many details, and like I said, it can be very hard to understand all of them, so I'm only going to be able to touch on a few of the basic ones, and I don't think we're going to have time during this session before the coffee break for Q&A, but if there are some things that I can quickly clarify as we go, please raise your hand. So what do you think of when you hear the phrase VC summer? Any words that come to mind? Corrupt? What was that one? Debacle? No questions. Okay, no questions. Okay, yeah, corrupt, debacle, scandal, boondoggle. $9 billion were spent on a big hole in the ground, financed by us customers. Many South Carolinians have already paid thousands of dollars for a project that will never be built. As a SCE&G customer, I pay 18% of my electric bill for a project that will never even be able to burn my toast. So the words that come to my mind mostly are corruption or scam. And I'm guessing many of you feel the same way. And thinking about how we got to this point, it might surprise you, but the VC summer fiasco is simply a natural continuation of the long-term trend of monopolies rigging the game by controlling the legislative debate and silencing the watchdogs that are supposed to be crying foul. A lot of people ask, why do we have monopoly utilities anyway? Why isn't there a competitive market? So going back for a century, utilities have been granted monopoly status in exchange for guaranteeing reliable, affordable power supplies. And who makes sure the monopoly utilities keeps their end of the bargain? It's a public regulator, the Public Service Commission. So why would our Public Service Commission let the utilities start charging us for a power plant that wasn't even built? In 2007, SCANA, and that's the parent company of SCE&G, you'll hear me refer to SCANA many times in this talk. In 2007, SCANA changed the rules of the game. They wanted the profit before they had the plant. So they wrote a bill called the Base Load Review Act, which accomplished their purposes, and they guaranteed passage of the bill by filling up legislators' campaign coffers and flooding the State House with lobbyists. In 2007, SCANA tripled their contributions to your legislators. So, of course, the bill passed unanimously in the Senate and almost unanimously in the House. They used your money to lobby politicians to take even more of your money. So now, with the customers on the hook for the bill, SCANA got the VC Summer power plant construction project approved with a guaranteed 11% rate of return. And with the rate of return guaranteed, the more money SCANA spent on the project, the more money SCANA executives, shareholders, and bondholders could take from us utility customers. Cost overruns, construction delays, that's more money in the pocket for the shareholders. Can you imagine getting a bonus for doing a bad job? So over the years, the project was being developed. The estimated cost to complete the project ballooned to over twice what the initial anticipated cost would be, and the project construction timeline almost doubled. And all of this was done on our dime with constant rate increases. Meanwhile, SCANA made sure the legislators got their share, pouring $1.7 million into candidates' campaigns and PACs since 2008, and another $1.5 million in those years on employing 8 to 10 State House lobbyists each year. Finally, last July, the project was canceled when the lead contractor went bankrupt. It became clear that there was no way that the project could possibly be completed economically, if at all. So it was cheaper to just scrap the entire project with all the sunk costs and just build something else to generate electricity than to keep pouring money into the money pit. And as controversial as it was, cancellation was the right call to stop the financial hemorrhaging. So what does the cancellation of the project mean to South Carolina residents and businesses? So overall, like I said, $9 billion were sunk into this project. And even though the project only made it to 1/3 of the way complete, and it's now canceled, there's still billions of dollars to pay in bills. Someone's got to pay, but the question is now who? Ask different people and you'll get different answers, but it all boils down to that there are 3 different parties who can end up with the bill. There's the customers, the taxpayers, and the shareholders. So first, there's the customers. The customers who have already been paying toward this project for almost a decade and are captive to the power companies by law. There is no competition allowed among electricity providers. So since customers can't shop around on the competitive market for an alternative power company, the only way they can protect themselves against skyrocketing energy costs is to increase their energy efficiency or invest in solar power and generate their own power. Making the customers pay is, of course, SCANA's preferred option. Second, there's the taxpayers. This means that even if you or your family or business doesn't get power from SCE&G or Santee Cooper, you may be on the hook for some kind of bailout. Watch out for special state tax deals or some provisions in the sale of Santee Cooper that quietly slip a bill in the pocket of every South Carolina taxpayer. Third, there's the shareholders and the bondholders. The SCANA shareholders who elect the company officers who were directly responsible for filling the legislators' campaign coffers, lobbying them to pass the Base Load Review Act, and then overseeing the disastrous construction project. The SCANA shareholders have profited handsomely from the VC Summer project with its guaranteed rate of returns for 9 years. But now, when there's actually some risk to them, risk that is intrinsic in an investor taking on an investment, now that there's some risk that the shareholders might have to pay, SCANA is crying foul and saying that shareholders paying would bankrupt the company. Fortunately, some fact-checking by a third-party audit has revealed the statement to be mostly scare tactics. The audit found that SCANA is unlikely to go bankrupt if it's forced to pay its share of the money, and in fact, it could do so by reducing or suspending the nearly $500 million per year that it now pays shareholders in dividends. And it looks like my time is up. So, I'll just close and thank you for the opportunity to be here and talk a little bit about this. I just want to make sure, so what comes next, please make sure to talk with your legislators and let them know that you're counting on them to make fundamental reforms and free our state's electricity customers to enjoy customer choice in a fair power market that everybody can understand. And the bottom line, no matter who purchases SCANA, no matter who purchases Santee Cooper, unless we make fundamental reforms and free our state's electric customers to enjoy customer choice in a fair power market that everybody can understand, you, I, every customer of SCE&G, every state of South Carolina taxpayer who owns Santee Cooper will still be left holding the bill. So thank you.